After 24 hours with this camera, this honestly, it might change. I might use this over my $7,000 camera setup. It's that impressive. Yesterday we shot a wedding, and when we were shooting that wedding, one of the photographers actually let me borrow something that I was hesitant, and I really didn't want to borrow it, if I'm being completely honest, but you might be wondering what the item is. Well, this unboxing it'll tell you what it is. I just finished the unboxing. This is actually now officially the low light-ish test. Does it look good? I can't tell from the screen. So, as you probably already figured out, it is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. Now, this isn't a new camera. This has been out for a while. But I've always been interested in it, but in the back of my mind, there was always the skepticism of, could it actually be as good as the Sony a7S III? And if you watched last week's video, the last clips at the wedding were completely shot on that guy's Osmo Pocket 3. I just watched somebody get into a wreck. Some kind of fight. The camera's really good. Now, over this video, I'm going to be making tweaks because, like everything, with every camera, there's things you have to fix and worry about and find the best settings for you. I've already set the exposure down a little bit, which I've never done with a camera before, but it seemed like the highlights were a little blown out. If you have this camera and you have any recommended settings, please let me know, because this thing's really cool. I'm trying to dial it in. This is what I'm doing. I'm always concerned with getting new cameras and stuff is the audio. The video is important, but I feel like the audio is much more important, and because of that, that's a big concern for me. And the reason that I love the DJI mics and why I use them so much is because they're consistent over pretty much all platforms. Like if I'm using my iPhone or my Sony, I know that the microphones are going to be the same. And right now I'm testing the internal microphones on this Pocket 3. I mean, does it sound good? Does it sound close to what the actual physical microphones are? Obviously with this I'm going to use the microphones 90% of the time, but the internal microphones, I mean, do they sound good? One thing I do like about these that I did notice is it's stereo audio. So when you're editing, I still like to have the natural ambient sounds around me. And the fact that it's stereo, meaning that if a truck like this drives by left to right, then you'll hear the truck go through the frame in stereo, which is kind of cool. when I'm looking for a new camera, there's a couple of criteria that the camera honestly needs to meet, and the first one is going to be ease of use. If I'm going to include or introduce a new piece of gear into what I grab on a daily basis to make videos, then it needs to be easy to use, but it also needs to produce a really good image. And that's why I've kind of bounced back and forth between my iPhone, because the iPhone, it really is easy to use, and the image looks okay in certain scenarios, but the biggest gripe that I have with the iPhone is the low light just isn't all that great compared to my A7S III, where the low light is completely, it's amazing. The other thing is going to be audio quality. Like I said with my iPhone, it's great, but the audio doesn't sound, it sounds like it's shot on an iPhone, which is why I've loved using the DJI mics, because it's kind of fixed that issue. But again, with that, and coming back to like ease of use, it also needs to be convenient to use, and carrying an extra transmitter with an extra receiver and everything else just kind of complicates everything just a little bit too much. And that leads me to my third point, is it needs to be convenient for me. And that's where this A7S III, that's the one thing the A7S III really does kind of fail in, because it's a huge camera. It looks incredible. It's relatively easy to use once you get used to it, but it's a big pain to carry that thing around, especially on hikes or walks or anything else. And that's where the iPhone traditionally has always kind of like beat it out. But with this camera, it kind of combines both worlds. The image quality is good, the audio is going to be consistent with my iPhone or with my Sony, but also at the same time, it's pretty convenient so far. Also, a little hack that I found. So I'm out on a walk, and that last shot you saw was a locked off shot, and actually what I used to hold the camera itself was just the case that it comes in. I didn't use any stands or anything else. It was literally just this case. One thing that I actually just figured out is when I want to switch it from like shooting forward to selfie mode, typically the easiest way, or the way that everybody tells you to do it, is the little button on the touchscreen down in the corner. But if you actually triple tap the joystick, it does the same thing. I personally prefer that. If I can have like a physical button over having like something on a touchscreen, I prefer that. Mostly just when like my hands like get sweaty, or if something like, or if it's hot, or if I'm wearing gloves or something like that, I prefer the tactile feel of a button. So what are my final thoughts, or what's my conclusion on if this camera is any good, or if I should just go back to using my big A7S III for pretty much everything that I shoot, and then using my iPhone for like pickup shots, or if I don't have my A7S III, is my iPhone good enough? And short answer, I think this fills a really cool spot. It's kind of like a middle ground between a Sony A7S III or big camera and like an iPhone. I think that it has aspects of the A7S III, like quality wise and everything like that, I really do like, and I like having a dedicated camera for content. But it also has the convenience factor of my iPhone being small, it fits in my pocket, and it's not a huge investment to bring it along. And I think, like everything, there's going to be quirks with every camera, and I think this one there's no exception. There's going to be things that work well with it, and there are things that don't work well with it. And I think just understanding those limitations or those quirks is the key to making the camera look really good. Also, I'm currently in our storage unit right here, and the reason for that is we're actually selling some stuff on Facebook Marketplace, and that person is supposed to be here to pick up a cat box or a cat something for our cats. Yeah, we actually bought it for $30, and I'm selling it for $25, so that's a win. my final thoughts after a little over 24 hours with the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. I think, like I said before, I think honestly it's a really good camera, and it's kind of in a unique spot. It's somewhere between an iPhone and a more expensive like cinema-esque camera. I think if you have a specific use case in mind for it and you kind of know what you're going to use it for, I think it's a really good camera. If you're just buying it for like a first camera, I don't know if it necessarily would be the best one that you could buy. And I only say that because it does have a fixed lens. You can't change lenses out. And for that price, you could get an entry-level Sony camera, or pretty much any other camera manufacturer makes a entry-level camera. And you could get, with that, you could get a kit lens that you could later upgrade and slowly start building your gear closet that way, instead of just buying just this Pocket 3 that may look really good, but you're kind of committed to that lens, and the only real upgrade that you could do is honestly just ND filters to help with the like highlight or the really bright situations that you may find yourself in. But on the other side of that too, I think if you're just looking for something that's going to be quick, easy, and you want something that's dedicated for like capturing memories or video, and you don't want to use your iPhone, I think it's a really good camera. I think at the end of the day, it really just comes down to what you want to use it for specifically, and if you have to kind of know what you want to use it for ahead of time.